In June 2016, a 34-year-old teacher from Ohio named Marcus had $10,000 sitting in his savings account. He'd read a couple articles about a chip company that made graphics cards for video games. His friends laughed at him. His wife asked him to think twice. His financial advisor told him the stock was overpriced. He bought anyway. 10 years later, that $10,000 is worth $1,680,000 from a $10,000 bet on a gaming chip company. Today, we're going to walk through exactly how that happened, year by year, because the story of NVIDIA isn't just about money. It's about vision, timing, and the biggest technological shift in human history. And if you stay until the end, we'll talk about what this means for your money right now. Let's go back to mid-2016. Barack Obama is in the White House. Hotline bling is on every radio. And NVIDIA? NVIDIA is a $17 billion company mostly known for making graphics cards, so teenage gamers could get smoother frame rates in Call of Duty. The stock adjusted for later splits was trading around 80 cents per share. If you put $10,000 in, you'd have bought roughly 12,500 split-adjusted shares. You wouldn't have felt like a genius. NVIDIA wasn't a household name. The S&P 500 was still the smart money's safe haven. Everyone said you should just buy an index fund and stop trying to pick winners. And most people did exactly that. But what the crowd missed, what almost everyone missed, was what was quietly happening inside NVIDIA's labs. Because Jensen Huang, NVIDIA's CEO, had a theory. A wild, almost ridiculous theory. He believed that the GPU, a chip designed to render pixels in video games, was secretly the most powerful computing tool ever built. Not for games, for artificial intelligence. And in 2016, almost nobody believed him. The first few years after a $10,000 investment in NVIDIA were interesting. In 2017, something unexpected happened. Cryptocurrency miners discovered that NVIDIA's GPUs were perfect for mining Ethereum and Bitcoin. Demand exploded. The stock doubled, then doubled again. By the end of 2017, your $10,000 had already grown to nearly $40,000. But then came 2018. Crypto crashed hard. Mining demand collapsed overnight, and NVIDIA was left holding the bag. Warehouses full of unsold chips. The stock dropped over 50% from its peak. $40,000 became roughly $25,000. This is the moment most investors would have sold. This is where the story of most "I could have been a millionaire" investments ends. The people who held, they stayed because they understood something crucial. NVIDIA's real bet wasn't on crypto. It was on AI. And in 2019, the world started to get the first hint that Jensen Huang was right. The technology powering facial recognition, voice assistants, and self-driving cars ran on NVIDIA chips. Every major tech company, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, they were all quietly buying NVIDIA GPUs by the thousands to train their AI models. Your $10,000 investment? By end of 2019, it had recovered to around $35,000. Not bad. But the real story hadn't even started yet. Then 2020 happened. The world shut down. The stock market crashed in February and March. NVIDIA fell along with everything else. But this is where patience gets rewarded in ways that are almost impossible to believe. The pandemic accelerated every digital trend by 5 years overnight. Cloud computing, remote work, AI research, all of it required more computing power. NVIDIA was the only company that could deliver it at scale. The stock finished 2020 up over 120%. Your $10,000 was now worth around $75,000. Then 2021 hit like a freight train. NVIDIA executed a 4-for-1 stock split, making shares more accessible. The AI wave was building. The stock surged another 125%. $75,000 became $170,000. In 2022, the tech sell-off wiped out nearly half of that. Interest rates rose. Growth stocks got crushed. Your portfolio dropped back to around $85,000. And here's where the story gets truly legendary. November 30th, 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. The world collectively realized that artificial intelligence wasn't a science fiction fantasy. It was here. It was real. And it ran on NVIDIA chips. Every company on the planet suddenly needed AI. Every government, every startup, every enterprise. And there was only one company with the chips, the software, the ecosystem, and the 10-year head start to supply them, NVIDIA. In 2023 alone, the stock gained 239%. Your investment, which had been sitting at roughly $85,000 just months earlier, rocketed to nearly $290,000 by year-end in a single calendar year. In 2024, NVIDIA executed another split, a massive 10-for-1, as the stock crossed $1,000 per share. The company crossed $3 trillion in market capitalization, briefly becoming the most valuable company in the world. The AI build-out, what Jensen Huang called the next industrial revolution, showed no signs of slowing. Every major tech player was spending hundreds of billions on AI infrastructure. NVIDIA's data center revenue alone surpassed $130 billion. The 10-year total return on NVIDIA stock? 16,681%. Your $10,000 worth approximately $1.68 million. That is not a typo, $1,680,000. From $10,000 in 10 years, that's a compounded annual growth rate of 67% per year, every year, for a decade. To put that in perspective, if you had put that same $10,000 in an S&P 500 index fund in 2016, you'd have roughly $35,000 today. A perfectly fine return. But NVIDIA turned every $1 into 168. This is one of the greatest wealth creation stories in stock market history. Now, before you run and put your life savings into the next hot stock, let's talk about what this story actually teaches us. Because there are 3 lessons here that most financial videos will never tell you. Lesson 1, the crowd is usually right, except when it's not. In 2016, the conventional wisdom was correct that most individual stocks underperform index funds. NVIDIA was the exception, not the rule. For every NVIDIA, there are hundreds of stocks that look just as promising and went to zero. This doesn't mean stock picking is smart. It means that when the crowd is wrong, the upside is historic. Lesson 2. Volatility is the price of admission. NVIDIA dropped 50% in 2018. It dropped nearly 50% again in 2022. At multiple points, investors who held through those drops looked foolish. The people who captured that 16,000% gain had to endure gut-wrenching losses along the way. If you can't hold through a 50% drop without panic selling, you can't capture these kinds of returns. Lesson 3, technology shifts create once-in-a-generation wealth. NVIDIA didn't win because it was lucky. It won because Jensen Huang saw the AI wave coming a decade before the market did, positioned the company perfectly, and executed relentlessly. The story of NVIDIA and that $10,000 investment isn't really a story about a stock. It's a story about conviction, about sitting through the crashes when everyone else was selling, about understanding a technology so deeply that you could hold on while the world laughed. Marcus, the teacher from Ohio we talked about at the beginning, he used his NVIDIA gains to pay off his mortgage, fund his kids' college, and retire early at 48. He didn't need a second job. He didn't need to win the lottery. He just needed one great investment, the patience to hold it, and the courage not to listen to everyone who told him he was wrong. If you want to stay ahead of moves like this, if you want to understand which companies are positioning themselves the way NVIDIA did in 2016, hit subscribe. We cover exactly this: the companies, the technologies, and the trends that most investors won't touch until it's too late. And if you found this video valuable, share it with one person in your life who needs to hear this story. I'll see you in the next one.